Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a discussion video for you. And today I want to talk about some cool knives. Now, this knife is my Brian Nadeau designed Evo Typhoon. So this is a production run of Brian's custom design, the Typhoon, which is fantastic. And I love Brian Nadeau's stuff. The problem is not everyone who's into knives is going to be interested in signing up for a pre-order, paying hundreds of dollars, waiting a long time to get what is a cool knife. Okay, this is a really, really cool knife, beyond cool. It's amazing. Like this is one of my favorite knives. Brian Nadeau is one of my favorite designers, and certainly the Typhoon is my favorite design of his. And I think this particular expression of it is almost perfect. Sometimes Brian, don't hate me too much, but sometimes I think Brian's designs go just a little over the top. This, I think, is such a perfect balance. Now, that's my own preference, and there are other specs that you could get with this knife. But every time I look at this knife, every time I open it, every time I carry it, every time I see it on my knife display, I just think, what a cool knife. Today, though, I want to talk about some other knives that don't cost as much as this, but still make me say, dude, that is a cool knife. All right, and I want to start with something that I'm actually working on the review on, and as I was working on the review, it kind of got me thinking about this. So this is a real steel knife. It is not expensive. In fact, it's pretty plain Jane in terms of materials. It's just D2 and bead blasted stainless steel. It's not even a titanium frame lock, but when I look at this, I go, that's a cool knife, right? That is really the design, the everything about it, right? The the hardware, I should say, the blade, the overall simplicity of it, the cleanness of it. I look at this and go, that is a really cool knife. And I don't have to pay a lot of money to get it. Now, there are a couple little points that I don't think are perfect. I will say this. I think the non-thumb stud version is cooler. And so I'm happy to forego the thumb studs and even have to open this two-handed. I can open it one-handed. I just sort of do that pinch and pull method like that. But I'm happy to forego some of the functional points to get the coolness points, okay? But this is not a knife that costs a lot of money, and it is stinking cool. And so this is one of the knives I wanted to share with you in this video. The next knife is the CRKT CEO, and this brings up a different point. So this is the flipper version of the CEO. Get it? It's got a point. This brings up a different discussion, and that is when someone comes along, whether it be CRKT in this case with the CEO, they've done it as well with, oh come on, I'm trying to think of the other knife, that the Pylar. The Pylar has been a really hot design for them. CJRB did it with the Feldspar here. Kaiser has done it with the Gemini. Civivi with the Dogma. All right. These knives, the reason I brought these in, and what makes them cool is that they're a slight variation on an already loved pattern. So the Kaiser Gemini by Ray Laconico, the CJRB Feldspar, the Civivi Dogma, the CEO, all of these knives kind of came out as sort of standard production knives in a particular sort of design and set of materials, but they sold really well and people really liked them. So the company was like, you know what? I bet people would appreciate some variation here. And so let's offer these knives in different handle materials, different color patterns. In this case, of course, it's got the carbon fiber G10 laminate with the blackened Damascus blade, which I kind of like. I know not everyone loves that. The CEO, it came out with a thumb stud, and by all accounts, that thumb stud was really miserable to get your finger on. So I think the flipper tab is a big improvement for this knife. Again, now, this is another one of those knives that does lose a couple of practicality points, but when I look at it, I go, that's a cool knife, right? That's really interesting. Would I carry this for my EDC every day? No, I wouldn't. I'd carry it maybe as a backup knife, and I have carried it, in a front pocket like a pen. It really works well that way. But again, I'm happy to sacrifice some of those function features, right? I'd like this to be bigger, more hand-filling. I'd like the blade to be a better material. But for the intended purpose of this as sort of a light-duty office carry knife, I think it's totally fine. All right. Again, this you don't need to pay a lot of money. You don't need to go on a waiting list. You don't need to, do anything difficult to get a really, really cool knife. Same with the Kaiser Gemini. Now this, of course, is a little small for me. I would love to see a couple of the other Kaiser Laconico designs done in a similar form factor with the micarta, because I do think it's really, really attractive. But this is another one of those knives that make me go, yeah, this is a cool knife. Is it perfect? No, but I'm happy to give it a pass on some of those less than perfect elements because of the fact that it's so cool. Same with this. I think this is really, really cool. Now, again, I had a couple of people who saw this and were like, oh, that is so ugly. I just hate that thing. I think it's a pretty cool knife. And I think most people would, I know there are people who have better taste than me, and that's fine. And those discerning people will go, Kevin, you're an idiot. That's totally fine. But again, I think this is a good example of Civivi offering something they've upped the cool factor a little bit. This, I actually I don't have an issue with, what would you say, any of there really isn't a downside in terms of utility on this knife. I have no problem using it and cutting with it. And that does bring up an interesting point. That brings up the next point that I sort of want to get to here. If we go back to my Evo Typhoon, which again, I love, would there be any times or places where I'd be a little hesitant to use this or carry this because I don't want to damage it or lose it or break it or, whatever? Yes. Okay. I know, use your stuff and blah, blah, blah. There are certain times where I would be like, nah, I'm not going to bring this knife. I'm going to leave it home. Would I ever feel that way about this knife? No. If I lose it, if I break it, if I dull the blade, if I mess up the finish, I don't care. It's like $80, right? Not that $80 is nothing, but it's a lot easier to replace this or even just use something else and not feel bad about breaking it than it is to destroy or damage something like this. All right, so that's another feature here that I think ought to be discussed. By the way, I left one knife out of here. I've got the Arroyo too, which again, I look at this and go, that's a cool knife, right? Is it perfect? Do I love everything about it? No, but does it get a lot of cool points? Absolutely. And again, would I care about breaking this? No, not really. Would I care if, I dropped it off a cliff or into some water or whatever? Nah, good, no big deal. But it's still really, really cool. And so it gives me an opportunity to carry something cool, carry something that I enjoy subjectively while not worrying about usage. Again, similar idea. There are tons of feldspars out there. There are tons of variations. This happens to be brown micarta. I think in my little video feature about this, I called it purple, and it does look very purple red sort of ish. Okay. Again, I don't feel bad about carrying this. Another cool knife is the Civivi Shredder. Really, really cool and really fun to carry. Doesn't cost a lot of money. I've got another one over here. The Real Steel Akuma. Very cool, very budget friendly, very fun. And so the whole point of this little video discussion is there are lots of really cool knives. You don't have to just focus on utility if you're working sort of in the budget realm. You can get a lot of coolness and not sacrifice much utility. This is a super useful knife. This is a super useful knife. All of these are actually really, really high utility. And even something like this, well, it's you can't, it has to be opened with two hands or something like this, where it's a little small in terms of, the hand, or this one, which is again a little small in the hand. I don't mind sacrificing those things for some cool factor at a lower price point. Now, when I get to a higher price point, and here's the rub, I guess. At a higher price point with something like this, I can't compromise on anything. I feel like this knife has to be perfect in every way, where something like this for $50 to $70, if it's not absolutely perfection in every meaningful way, I can, I go, yeah, no big deal. All right, so there you go, guys. My point here is that there are a lot of cool knives out there, and I'd love to hear your submissions down below. What's the coolest knife you own that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, that other people who want to have some cool knives in their collection, that don't want it to be all about utility all the time, can pick up and own and not have to worry about? So for those of you watching, check out the comments down below. Do check the channel sponsors. I will put both Southern Edge Knife Works and White Mountain Knives down there. You can use my discount code Sharp Stuff. That'll save you a bit of money, and it does help the channel as well. So it's a win-win. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.